Well, hi again, everybody. As always, it's good to be back with you. I'm actually playing while I talk with you. I'm playing the game and going through the boring parts. I did want to talk a little bit more about Football Manager addiction. I know that it's been a little while since we've done a video along these lines. As I've noted before, and as I've told you before, I do have a history with addiction to the game. That's where you find yourself playing Football Manager so much that it starts to really interfere with your life. You know, say you have a meeting at work that's virtual and you're stuck at home, and so during the meeting you're playing the game. I had one time where my boss looked at my face and was asking me if something was wrong, and I mean nothing was wrong in real life. It was just that in game we'd just blown a lead to whatever team we were playing, and I didn't know how to explain that. Yeah, in the fantasy football game that I'm playing or soccer game I'm playing, we just totally blew it. You know, you should have been there, you should have seen it, and all that stuff. There's really no good way to say that to the person who employs you, so I would definitely recommend not doing that. That's where you know you have a problem, right? When we're talking about like you play the game so much that it interferes with your life. Around that time, I was doing searches online. I was looking up things on YouTube and Reddit and other places to see if anyone had talked about addiction specifically to Football Manager. I remember that I had found a couple of things about video game addiction in general, talking about games like League of Legends and Dota, whatever that stands for. You can tell I don't play, you know, and things we've all read about, World of Warcraft and EverQuest and other games that are known for their heavily addictive nature. Now, the thing about those types of games is that the thing that makes them addictive and the thing that gives people a problem with them is not the same thing that makes Football Manager addictive. And that's where it becomes really difficult for those of us who want to deal with Football Manager addiction to figure out sort of where to start, right? Football Manager theoretically is a multiplayer game, but the vast majority, I mean, probably 99% of us don't play it multiplayer. We play it single player in our own league and in our own way. So when I go on and I read what people say about, you know, talking about like the dopamine addiction of trying to get their level in League of Legends to move up like a certain amount, or trying to get to the trial to go to the next one, or the way that people will totally flip out and lose their cool when they have a teammate who's new or who does something wrong or makes a mistake or purposely is away from keyboard or whatever. Like, I don't understand that at all. I don't understand because I've never played it. I don't know what it's like to have like a raid that's scheduled for a certain time, and that happens to be, I don't know, your dinner time or time for your kid to have something at school that's important or something like that. I don't know what that's like because I've never gone raiding. I have no idea what that feeling is like. And when people talk about that sort of thing and I read it, I'm like, I kind of get it, but I don't understand, you know, I don't understand what exactly it is that you're talking about, because none of the games that I play have those sort of elements to them. This isn't only like a Football Manager thing, right? I mean, what other computer games do I like to play? You can watch my other channel where I do a bunch of baseball simulators, right? Well, those are not online-only games with ranking systems, right? Obviously. Or I like to play, you know, Paradox interactive games, which is common among people who play Football Manager. Again, it's highly addicting, but it's addicting for completely different reasons than a lot of these other games are, you know, known for being addicting. It's addicting and it's interesting because of the depth of the game and because of the kind of weird things you can do when you learn the secrets of minning and maxing stuff and so on. It's not addicting though because there's this endless queue and there's the endless thing you can scroll through and all of that. And so, I mean, I don't know if you've had experience with this at all. You may be able to relate a little bit. Like, I would go on to, there's the Stop Gaming forum on Reddit. I would go on and read and see what people would say and advice they would give. And I found that most of it was simply not applicable to my own situation at all, because I didn't play that type of game. You know, you can say that, oh, you know, go do some other activity that's also, at least theoretically, highly competitive in nature, and I would say, well, that's not really going to help me much. I mean, I don't know. We all have different personalities. I'm actually not that much of a competitive person, which is why I don't play super competitive video games. You know, it's also why I don't play like competitive chess or whatever. I have kids who do. But I don't, because I really don't like that feeling of I'm up against this person and if he wins, then I lose and I feel awful, you know. I'm okay with feeling happy for somebody else, right? Kind of, you know, happy-go-lucky type thing, and we can all be happy and we're all winners, you know. If I'm going to compete against somebody, I'd like to sort of compete against the computer here. But honestly, sometimes it's more fun, even if you don't win, right? It's more fun to have some struggles and to have to, you know, figure out a way to answer different questions and problems that come along and so on and so forth. So, I mean, that's the thing, right? This whole like, oh, find a different competitive outlet for what you want to do might not be the most helpful thing for you. Now, what I think is helpful, I am not a trained like psychologist. I'm not trained on this stuff at all. I've read a few things about addiction. I can tell you that there's a lot of pseudoscience around addiction. I can also tell you that there are things that are not helpful. I don't know about you guys. For me, if I learn about like the brain chemistry behind addiction and stuff like that, it doesn't help. It's something that's interesting, and I think about it for maybe a couple days, and then it goes away, or I forget about it, and then I go back to do what I normally do, right? That's not the thing that helps. For me, what helped me the most was relaxing and looking back at the past, looking at things in my life and asking myself, is there some place here where I'm feeling really upset? Is there something that's happening to me that's causing me to want to escape from this world and go into football manager mode for like, I don't know, 10 hours a day, right? What is going on? What am I running away from? And then once I can deal with what that is, once I understand what's happening, maybe there's something in the past that I'm still upset about. Once I can bring it out in the open and deal with it myself and, deal with it in a responsible sort of adult manner, then it becomes a lot easier to put the addiction in check and to understand what was happening and to understand why I'm doing this thing that otherwise doesn't really make that much sense, right? Now, what I'll tell you from my experience is that there are some things you probably don't want to do. I've tried it myself, right? Going cold turkey on something is nice, but if it's a game like Football Manager, what I've discovered at least is that after a while, I start to miss it. And they can say, oh, well, stay away from all media associated with the game. Don't watch it on YouTube. Don't think about it at all. But, I don't watch Football Manager content. I don't read about it and stuff just because, like, I feel bad about something in my life. Like, I do enjoy the game. There is some sort of positive benefit that comes from it, right? We can worry about dopamine this and dopamine that, but this isn't a heavy dopamine-inducing game. It's really not. There's not a whole bunch of like those special sounds and all these crazy colors and graphics that are flashing all over the place and stuff. No. In fact, that's the thing people complain about, right? Because they go play FIFA, which has a lot more of that sort of dopamine approach to it, right? No, this is more a game that's a little bit more thinking, and it causes you to react to certain situations that come up, right? It also happens to be a game that you actually can play in moderation, though it's a little hard if you're trying to create content for the gameplay that you're working with. But it is a game that you can do something with. It is a game that you can continue to enjoy, and that you can continue to play, and you can continue to have fun with, even if you're taking a break from it for a while, or even if you're trying to limit yourself to a certain amount of time per day, right? So, I mean, that's kind of the point, right? Like, the Football Manager is maybe not something you want to do like all day, every day, as I've done in the past. That's probably a bad thing for your life. But if you completely rip the game out of your life, you might find that it kind of creates a little bit of an empty hole. Now, I enjoy watching the sport, but it's hard for me to watch the sport and not find myself getting at least a little bit bored and not wanting to come on, play Football Manager and try something else, or do some sort of experiment, or do some other wacky thing, or just do what I'm doing now, hit continue and wait for the stupid thing to finish loading, right? And that's where you're going to find the problem, right? When you try to just completely cut it off, at some point in time, you'll become nostalgic for it. Believe it or not, there is sort of like a happy medium somewhere, right? There is a way for you to enjoy a game like Football Manager without necessarily, playing it like for, 10 hours or so a day and devoting your entire life to it, right? You can play it for just a couple minutes at a time. You can do it piecemeal. You can play it slow. I've discovered for me that that's the approach that works the best. If I do it slowly and if I just take it a little bit at a time, I end up enjoying it more. I end up feeling like I know the players better. I get deeper into the storyline. And then it turns into something where I'm like, okay, I spent a little bit of time doing that already today. Like, I don't know, right now is my lunch hour, so I'm doing it over lunch, and then we can go back and we can go do work, Working remotely is nice. You can get away with this, If you're not working remotely, you only have a little bit of time during the day. Okay, well, you do it later on in the day at night or something, right before you go to bed, whenever time, ends up working the best for you, right? Just make sure you're not doing it 10 hours a day, right? And make sure that life isn't turning into only the game and nothing else. And then the nice thing there is that you play for a little while, you get what you need done, accomplished. Maybe you can do it in the morning before you have whatever goes on. I don't know about you guys. We go shopping, for groceries on Saturdays, right? So, okay, well, before we go shopping, let's fire it up, knock a couple games out, and, get the story advanced just a little bit more, right? That's nice because then you don't feel compelled to try to play through a whole season in a day. I worry, and I've said this before, I worry a lot about other YouTubers and other content creators who I know are trying to play a season in a week or less. I worry a lot because even if you're saying this is my full-time job, I do it 8 hours a day, which I think is sort of what these guys are telling themselves. It's really, really difficult. It's got to be just really, really hard for these guys because, playing this game for that much time in one day is going to get you really frazzled after a while. You've got to take a break. You've got to do something else. You have to have more in your life than just Football Manager. You must, right? And I would argue, and I've always thought this, that even for a content creator, you can probably create high quality content without having to kill yourself by trying to play 8+ hours a day. Just my opinion. Anyway, best of luck to everyone. Love to know what you think, especially if you worry that you yourself do have Football Manager addiction issues. There's a lot of memes out there. There's a lot of humorous stuff and all that stuff, but I do wish it's something that we take a little bit more seriously because I do think it's a real problem. And if we talk about it a bit, I do think we can find that happy medium and be able to enjoy the game without sacrificing everything we love in life. Anyway, I'll talk with you guys later. Bye-bye.